What you know, Alibiers? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Wednesday, December 10th, day 8 in the Brian Walshe trial. Yesterday, the state hinted that they may finish up with their evidence today, and I suspect they will rest. So far, we've had one witness on the stand, that is Jim Mutlu. He was the man that spent New Year's Eve with Brian and Anna. Now, this morning, before the jury came in, they had him on the stand going through some questions to see what they were going to allow in and what they would not. But let's just jump into his testimony in front of the jury because it's all pretty repetitive from what he had testified to previously. He met Brian at a leadership program back in 2020. It was the length of a semester. There was a buddy system, and Brian asked to be his partner. They stayed in touch after that program ended. He met Anna through Brian. She came to one of the graduations, and he knew about her interest in real estate, and they also had a mutual friend. Anna ended up working for Jim. He hired her in the summer of 2020 as a director of operations for his team, and they became close friends. She left his company in the spring of 2022, but back in the fall of 2021, she told Jim that she was offered a stellar job in D.C. and asked for his blessing. After she left the company, they didn't talk as much. His relationship with Anna, Brian, and the kids, he said he saw them as his own. He also sold properties for Anna. Jim and Anna had a call on December 29th that lasted around 45 minutes. He called to congratulate her on the closing of a property where she was going to reinvest those proceeds. Now, a 1031 exchange is a federal deferred tax exchange program. I looked it up, and it's a strategy that can allow real estate investors to defer capital gains tax on the sale of investment properties. Buyers have 45 days to declare 1, 2, or 3 properties, and those properties have to be of equal or greater value, and then they would have 6 months or 180 days to close on 1, 2, or 3 of those properties. He was happy that she wanted to reinvest and grow financially. As far as the New Year's Eve plans, Anna said, "I know you're going to stay home, so please come and spend New Year's Eve with us," and he did. Now, during that phone conversation on the 29th, Anna told him that her and Brian were having marital problems. There was an objection. She said traveling back and forth was taking a toll on her, and she wasn't seeing her kids. There was another objection that led to a sidebar. After the sidebar, the state asks again about Anna saying that traveling back and forth was taking a toll and she wasn't seeing her kids. Jim said it was difficult for her, and he can't remember what she said about Brian not being able to leave Massachusetts because of his federal case. New Year's Eve at Anna and Brian's house, he brought fruit and chocolate for the kids. He got there around 8:30 p.m., and he gets very emotional and says Anna ran out of the house to greet him with no coat on, and it was freezing. And she was running out of the house as he was pulling into the driveway. They hugged and they went inside. Brian and the kids were there, but he was told the kids were sleeping. They went to the kitchen and sat at the large island. He said Anna was very festive and happy to see him, and Brian seemed fine. Jim and Anna were seated on the stools at the island, and Brian was on the other side preparing the meal as well as serving them drinks and food. Their oldest son came down to join them, and he gets very emotional as he says he ran to me and said, "Jim, I haven't seen you in a while. I miss you." And then he gave him a hug. Anna took a photo of Jim with the oldest child on her cell phone. And that night, Anna was texting people, including Will Fasto. Jim and Anna took a photo together, and she told Jim, "Let's send this to Will." He said the oldest was with them for about a half hour, maybe more. That night, they drank champagne and wine, no hard liquor, and they all wrote on the champagne box. They show that to the jury, and Anna wrote, "Wow, 2022, what a year. And yet we are still here together. Let's make 2023 the best one yet. We are the authors of our lives. Courage, love, persistence, compassion, and joy. Love, Anna." Jim wrote, "No place I'd rather be but here, New Year's Eve 2022. The oldest child gave Jim a necklace. He saw no injuries on Anna and had no concerns about her physical health. That night, Brian told him that he personally had an income of between $50,000 to $60,000. He said Anna had $240,000 plus bonuses and that could equal around $300,000. There were no apparent problems with Anna and Brian that night, and Brian told Jim that he had misplaced his phone, but it felt refreshing to be away from the phone that night. Jim, being courteous, asked Brian what time he went to bed because he didn't want to overstay his welcome. Brian said around 9 or 9:30 because they were waking up the next morning for the kids. Jim said he better go, but he ended up leaving around 1 to 1:30 that morning. Anna never mentioned a work emergency to him that night. The next time he tried to contact Brian and Anna through text was the next day. Jim texted, "I love my necklace." Brian tells Jim, "Thomas just found my phone." Before January 2nd, he had no phone conversations with Brian. He did talk to Brian that Wednesday, which would be January 4th, and the call was around mid-morning. Jim was on the beach. Brian said, "Have you heard from Anna?" And she's been missing. Jim asked, "How could she be missing?" And Brian said she left around 6 to 6:30 New Year's Day in an Uber for a work emergency. And Jim said, "What work emergency could there have been on New Year's Eve?" He asked, "Did you have a fight or an argument?" And Brian said, "No. Did it look like we had an argument? You were there." Jim really didn't know what to make of it. He said he was in shock. He told Brian to call the police, call everybody we know, let the community know because we've got to find her. He said Brian's tone was not panicked. Over the next few days, they spoke a few times. And of course, he hasn't seen or heard from Anna since he left their house in the early morning hours on New Year's Day. On cross, it got a little uncomfortable at times, and I will tell you, when I've been in the courtroom and the defense tries to sort of dirty up the victim, it doesn't go over well with the jury. I would love to be there to watch this jury. But on cross, they ask about the Breakthrough Academy where he met Brian, and the premise of that was to become better humans and improve emotional intelligence. And there were 3 areas of this course: discovery, breakthrough, and leadership. The leadership portion was by invitation only, and Anna had taken this very class the semester before Jim and Brian did. Anna suggested to Brian that he link up with Jim. Jim had been in real estate for a long time, and he knew Anna was interested. He and Anna talked a lot about property investments. Defense: you became friends with Brian through this group, and you respected him as a colleague. And the witness said Brian was not a colleague of mine. But he did say Brian was a very impactful person, meaning he looked out for you. And they got to be good friends. Now, this was during COVID, and part of this class was they had to pick a community service project. Brian pushed hard for them to select Loving Spoonfuls. They ended up raising $80,000, and Brian matched those funds for a total of around $160,000 to $170,000, and hundreds of thousands of people were fed as a result. He remembers the first time he saw Anna, which was at one of the graduations for the program. They also had a mutual friend who told Jim about Anna. He and Anna spoke daily when she worked for him. He said Anna would bring pastries to his house and they would sit and strategize and talk. And then they would also meet with other team members. Defense: you saw their kids as your own? Yes. They ask if he's married, and he is not. So they ask, you were talking a lot on the weekends? Yes, work and personal. Anna would bring you food and spend time there during the day? Did Brian ever complain about how much time you spent with Anna or how much you texted? And Jim said no, Brian supported her. You and Anna hit it off quickly, and Jim said she was a very warm person. Defense: she became your right hand. She would even drop off as dry cleaning. Jim said she came from hospitality, and she would serve people champagne at company gatherings. She was an exceptional employee and friend, and I relied on her. Defense: she never said no to you? Jim says that's not true. They had a disagreement in the fall of 2021, and there were times she would respond in a passive-aggressive way, and so he would reach out to people who knew her to ask how to handle this. In fall of 2021, he told her to take some time off, but he would continue to pay her. It didn't affect their professional relationship or their personal friendship. Did you at one point reach out to Brian to talk to him about how to move past this? Jim said they met for dinner and discussed the issue. In November of 2021, Anna told him about possibly taking a job somewhere else, and he was sad about it. He thought they could grow the business. But Anna and Brian had him over to their house to tell him they cared about him, but this was best for Anna and the family. And Brian told Jim, you have to support her. The DC job was a big salaried job, and it was a big step for her and a big opportunity for Anna to grow. He was told eventually Brian, the kids, and Brian's mom would make the move up to DC. Anna was very interested in investing in real estate. He found out about Brian's federal case, and he actually attended a couple of the hearings to support Brian and Anna. Brian's mom was there, as well as other friends of Brian and Anna. He sat next to Anna at one of the hearings, and she clutched his hand. It was a tense moment just before the judge's declaration. The defense says Brian's mom was upset that you were holding her hand. There was an objection that was sustained. You spent a lot of time with Brian and Anna, and you talked to Anna a lot about her marriage and being a mother. And Anna said Brian wasn't the jealous type, and Jim says that's correct. Did Anna confess she had a crush on you? He says, yeah, maybe. I don't remember those words coming out. The defense asks if looking at a transcript of a prior interview he did would refresh his memory, and he says yes. They come back. He says he doesn't remember saying that. Defense, you developed a close relationship with another coworker, and it became romantic. There was an objection that was sustained. You don't remember Anna saying she was jealous of that? Objection sustained. You don't remember Anna telling Brian she had a crush on you, and at this point, the judge is like, I'll see you at the bench. When they came back, after she stopped working for you, you kept in touch, but not as often, and he said that's correct. But she was still taking care of business for Jim because he says that's the kind of human being and employee she was. Was she in DC or Boston when doing that? And Jim said she was commuting, and they would also exchange advice about their work. He said she was a sister he never had and an exceptional human being. You said the conversation you had on the 29th was her saying the commute was hard, and that was part of it. Defense asks about the $300,000 salary, and Jim said that was dependent on whether or not she got bonuses. On the 29th, she called and invited you over for New Year's Eve. She didn't say, let me check with Brian first. He says he doesn't remember. He originally had called to congratulate her on reinvesting the money from her sale in that 1030, and he mentions a team member of his helped her. The sale was for several $100,000. He said she would have had 45 days to declare up to 1, 2, or 3 properties to reinvest in, and then 180 days to settle on it. They did spend New Year's Eve together 2 years before 2022, and that was at a restaurant. In 2022, you knew Will Fasto for about 20 years, and you met through real estate in Boston and then later in DC. When Anna wanted to buy a family home, you hooked Anna up with Will. He said yes, and he also wanted her to have a friend there. But then he says he introduced Will to the whole family, not just Anna. They asked if Brian and Will had a professional relationship but not personal, and the witness doesn't know. Anna told you she had become good friends with Will, and you had a call with her on the 29th. Did she tell you she was romantically involved with Will or that she would leave Brian for Will? He says no. He knew they had gotten close, but she never said they were in a romantic relationship. Defense says you spent time with both Anna and Brian without the other being there, and you never saw them argue, and he doesn't recall seeing them argue. He thought there was a lot of love between them, and he said Anna was very much in love with Brian. He said Brian and Anna would come to him individually if they had disagreements. On New Year's Eve, he texted her about coming over, saying he was looking forward to seeing Anna and Brian as well as the kids. The defense asked about Anna running out with no coat to greet him and asked, are you walking in the house hand in hand? Jim says she was very excited to see me. She gave me a hug and we went into the house. And when you saw Brian, he gave you a hug, and the witness says yes. Anna showed you a new ring that was quite large, worth several $100,000s. There is an objection, and the judge is like, good time to take that morning break. So I will recap the rest of the day later this evening. Again, expected to be a short day, so we will see if that actually happens. That is it for now. Hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you soon.